Rejected, throwing away, affected. I don't know what to say. Ejected, cast out to the sea, disconnected. They didn't want me.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Nicksmissal IV, the final chapter. I am Patricia, and I'm here with special guest Antoni Garcia, who was in the Ren Stimpy podcast last year. So welcome back, Antoni.
Hey there again.
So today we're going to be, it's perfect timing because we're going to be talking about a canceled Ren and Stimpy spinoff series. Well, actually we're talking about two spinoff series. So this basically was written in the books Sick Little Monkeys, an unauthorized Ren and Stimpy story by Thad Komorowski. And according to the book, it was stated that one of the writers of Ren and Stimpy, Chris Riccardi, wanted to pitch two spin-off series off of Ren and Stimpy during his time as a writer. One of them would have been based off of the minor character Haggis McHaggis. The other one was featured in an episode, Powdered Toastman versus Waffle Woman. And I don't know whether it would have been Powdered Toastman or Waffle Woman that would have gotten the spin-off, but essentially those two episodes where they were focusing on the characters were apparently pilots to possible spin-off series, and none of them got picked up. So today we're going to be discussing about what we think about, a possible Ren and Stimpy spin-off series based off those two characters. So let's start off with Haggis McHaggis. So, interesting that out of all the characters featured in Ren and Stimpy, they would feature Haggis McHaggis. What do you think, Antoni?
Well, I think Haggis McHaggis is a pretty interesting character. He's not a character I'd easily remember because the ones I definitely remember are definitely Mr. Horace, Powdered Toastman, and Muddy Mud Skipper. Now, Muddy Mud Skipper, I'm sure, is a fan favorite.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the characters, I would think that maybe Muddy Mud Skipper would have gotten a spin-off. I mean, he did have his own TV show, after all, so maybe we would have gotten more insight into the TV series.
Yeah, we could have wanted to have, like, a Muddy Mud Skipper spin-off because, well, much like how all that had spin-offs of The Amanda Show and Zoe 101 and all that stuff, that could have happened to Muddy Mud Skipper. I had a feeling. The same thing I could say about, let's say, Haggis McHaggis and Crazy Old Man. He could have had his own spin-off, too.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, I can think of a lot of characters, but let's focus on Haggis. So, he did have a handful of episodes, one of which involved with Ren and Stimpy having their own TV series, and it got Haggis McHaggis off the air, and he became, like, really depressed, and he just went completely insane. And the one which was apparently the pilot was, I think, one of the very few episodes in the series in which Ren and Stimpy were not featured at all. It was the episode in which Haggis McHaggis was in Scotland, and he was being bombarded by the leprechaun who was making him completely miserable. And it was a St. Patrick's Day special. Interesting. Oh, yeah. Interesting thing enough. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that, a spin-off series based off of him, I think it would have been one of those really short mini-series because I don't really see a lot of potential with the character.
Yeah. Honestly, Haggis McHaggis, to have a spin-off show with him, it's like, I'm kind of iffy about him because he's not really one of my most memorable Ren and Stimpy characters of all time. I mean, he is pretty good, but, well, let's just say that there's a little bit of meat that kind of lacks with him. I mean, that's not to say he's not memorable. I mean, he's funny, but to have him as a standalone character having his own spin-off series, I mean, it might have ended up falling down. Yeah. In my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would have been acted well because, the late Alan Young did a fantastic job performing as the character who was basically an angrier Scrooge McDuck.
Oh, yes, the same gentleman who voiced that memorable character.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. I mean, DuckTales was running around the same time, so maybe Chris Riccardi got the idea of having, hey, let's have Alan Young. Everybody loves a grumpy Scotsman with DuckTales. Let's see if we can do that for Ren and Stimpy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I definitely do agree, Antoni, that out of all the characters that are featured in the series, whether it be minor or major, yeah, Haggis McHaggis is not one of my favorite. So let's talk about the other one. The episode Powder Toast Man versus Waffle Woman. Again, I don't know whether it would have been Powder Toast Man or Waffle Woman that would have gotten the spinoff. But, yeah, what do you think of this one?
Powder Toast Man. Definitely my favorite side characters ever. And also my favorite comedic superheroes. Yes, he may not be as great as the Tick or as popular as him, but hey, he could be able to stand on his own 2 feet. I mean, he could really, really stand on his own 2 feet because he's got that charm and he's got certain facets about him that make him, well, let's just say captivating. Yes, captivating.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that with Powdered Toast Man, there would have been a lot of possibilities with the character. I mean, we did have various villains. We did have him saving the, little boys here and there whenever they got into trouble and stuff like that. So yeah, I do see a lot of potential with the character. I mean, it would have probably. I mean, I don't know when it would have came out. It probably would have came out either around the early to mid '90s. So it probably would have came out even before the Tick.
Yes, definitely, because we all know that the Tick is definitely the big boy when it comes to comedic superheroes, and lest you forget about the Dodgers. But I'm sure that Powdered Toast Man would have also filled in the Tick's shoes if he were to have his own spin-off series. And that's something I could definitely really see through him, because to have a comedic superhero show with this particular character seems like a no-brainer, because he's got this certain presence, he has a lot of great line deliveries, and he's just naturally funny to watch as a character.
And also, it would have been a first for Nickelodeon to have a comedic superhero. This would have been about a few years before Action League Now.
Yes, exactly. And, we could have kind of had a little bit of a crossover between those shows.
Could have been.
That would have been. Yeah, definitely. But where was someone going to get a Powdered Toast Man doll to combine with the Action League figures?
That would have been cool.
Something. Yeah, definitely.
All right, and now let's focus on Waffle Woman. If she would have got a spinoff. I mean, we only knew about Waffle Woman from that episode, and
yes.
if she would have had this spinoff, do you think it would have worked out as well, or as well as the Powdered Toast Man spinoff?
I think it would have, because Waffle Woman, yeah, she might seem like a pretty interesting foil to Powdered Toast Man, but in terms of memorability, I think Powdered Toast Man, well, sorry to use the pun here, takes the cake.
Right. Yeah, maybe we would have had focused a little bit more on her, like having more episodes based off of her. Maybe she would have made a lasting impact. I would think that maybe, with Powdered Toast Man having like a more consistent bad guy, because there wasn't really a lot of them. I mean, that's one of the major things is that, Powdered Toast Man didn't have a consistent bad guy that he would fight. He would either save kids or, promote his product or something like that. But
yeah, I mean, if Batman can have the Joker, and if Superman can have Lex Luthor, then let's have Powdered Toast Man have a recurring supervillain for him. Someone who could, be his equal in terms of abilities and even that of humor, I mean, Powdered Toast Man, he comes off as pretty dashing and heroic, and he seems like the image of the all-around good guy. We could have had a supervillain who is very dry-humored and, is kind of like an antithesis to Powdered Toast Man's charms. Maybe he could have been a little bit more chauvinistic. I am not so sure, but that could have been rather interesting.
Yeah. So what would have happened if any of these shows would have been picked up? Do you think that maybe we would have had more focus on other shows that would have had spin-off series? Because We talked about a few years ago that Rugrats was planning on having a spin-off series based off of the Carmichaels, and
Yes.
If Doug, and eventually with Doug, even though it moved over to Disney, they were even planning on having spin-off series as well. And also, Kablam had various spin-off shows that they wanted to, present, and a whole bunch of things. So this would have probably been like a precursor to all of those shows. So you think maybe we would have had more spin-off series based off of the Nicktoons if it would have happened?
Well, yes and no, because when it comes to spin-off shows, the formula can either work or fail. I mean, the ones that work really, really well stand alone on their own as their own. Like, for example, when you had Beavis and Butthead, all along came Daria, and Daria had her own successful as Beavis and Butthead. And if you look at the opposite end of the spectrum, when you have Janutron, then you have a total failure like Planet Sheen. So I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to spin-off shows because, well, if you have enough creative juice or if you have enough writers to really fully flesh out a character or really develop the character very, very well, then they would really stand on their own 2 feet and become as memorable as any other character as before. Like, I'm always thinking to myself, like, I know this is a bit unrelated because every time I watch that Rugrats episode where Tommy meets his cousins, I'm like thinking to myself, hey, we could have had a spin-off show about them. We could have had an episode from All Grown Up about them, and it would have been just as entertaining.
That's very interesting. But yeah, the only spin-off series that we've got for Nickelodeon as of right now were obviously the shows that spun off from Oh Yeah Cartoons, but then again, I won't count those because those were pitch pilots.
Yes.
So we had All Grown Up, we have Planet Sheen, and if you want to count Legend of Korra, it's more like a spin-off / continuation. So
yeah,
I guess I could count that as well. But yeah,
I think Korra is half and half because, well, I would say that Legend of Korra is definitely a sequel, and it really does follow its predecessor quite well. But I'd have to say that it's kind of its own thing, and it stands pretty strong on its own.
Yeah, I do know people who have watched The Legend of Korra first and have never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Exactly. And in my opinion, I would say, well, if you do end up watching Legend of Korra first, then it's an okay step, but you won't really know what actually happened in Avatar: The Last Airbender of how everything came to be. So you kind of need that show in order to support your experience with the other.
Right. And I think with either of these shows, whether we would have had Haggis McHaggis or Powdered Toast Man, maybe in continuity-wise, you wouldn't have to watch either of them in order for you to get the characters, but, it would be nice to know about where the characters and the setup came from.
Yes, definitely. One of the reasons why I also said that Powdered Toast Man is a character who has all the potential to have his own spin-off more than Haggis McHaggis is because Haggis McHaggis, to me, is sort of a joke character. His only trait seems to be is that he's Scottish, and he has a pretty repetitive name. Whereas with Powdered Toast Man, he has personality. He is a comedic superhero, and, well, he just has his own special charm that makes him stand out very, very well.
Yeah, I do agree. So right before we conclude this, let's discuss about John Kay. Now, yes. John Kay was not involved in any of the pitch spin-offs because this was when he left around that time.
Yeah.
But he did do a spin-off series based off of one of the Ren and Stimpy characters, which is George Liquor American. And he did it a few times. He did it with the goddamn George Liquor Show. And he did it with Cans Without Labels, and he featured more of the character more recently in various commercials promoting UFC and stuff like that. So I guess if John K. would have stayed longer in Ren and Stimpy, I wouldn't have been surprised if maybe he would have had a possible chance of maybe pitching an idea for George Liquor to have a spin-off series.
Definitely, because George Liquor, he's another minor character who has a great presence on screen. I mean, he comes off as this gentleman who seems to be kind of typical when it comes to old men who think they got a lot of things and are wealthy, and he seems to really stand on his own 2 feet very, very well. He's a character with enough charisma and with enough personality to even have his own show and not just be another side character.
Yeah, definitely. I do definitely agree. All right. I think that should be it for this episode. So, Antoni, why don't you plug and promote your stuff?
So, as you know, I'm Antoni Garcia. I review opera productions, concerts, albums, musicals, ballet productions, anime, cartoons, movies, and I'm also an actor who also has some short films with me on YouTube. So please subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Manic Expression, Team Night Saturn, Channel Awesome, and you can even support me on Patreon and upvote me on Steemit. Just spread the word and just stay awesome, because I got a lot of really, really great content to offer you and everything that I do. So just check all my work out, and until then, see you all on the flip side.
All right, thank you very much, Antoni. That should be it for
You're
this
welcome.
That should be it for this episode. So tune in next time, as we are going to be talking about another pitch spin-off series that would have came out, but it didn't happen. So see you next time.
See you next time.
You got rejected, and your jeans that thinks you're a disgrace. You got rejected, and you feel like you've been punched in the face. You got rejected, tell your friends your letter's lost in the mail. You got rejected, so just suck it up and go to hell.